Yes, it's Harley Quinn, Margot Robbie. It was the only thing that was vaguely appropriate. The other pink shirts I have are Disney, and I don't have any that actually have like the princesses on them that are like a pink shirt with princesses on them. That would have been very applicable. I've ordered a Barbie shirt with a design on it, but it won't be here for a little while, unfortunately. Um, and I do have like a pink dress in the closet, but I don't really feel like wearing it on camera, or at least not at the moment. So you get Harley Quinn, Margot Robbie. So that's what we get. Um, I dug out my Barbies. I still have them. I'm 31 years old and I still have my Barbies. Eh, I really don't have a problem with that. I just never got rid of them just because I just never wanted to do so. I've got several Barbies. I've got some of the different multiracial Barbies. I've got like two Kens. I've got an Olympics Barbie that I think is actually supposed to be a ballet Barbie, and a bunch of dresses, and I've got other dresses in the box behind them. I probably played with Barbies a lot longer than most girls did, but I didn't care. I didn't really have anybody else to play with, so I played with the Barbies. I also played with Polly Pockets, but that was a slightly different thing. Um, but so I finally saw the Barbie movie. It took me several weeks to finally getting to do it. We had planned to go and see it with my nieces to come with my mom and I to go see it because my dad had no interest in it. He may still end up watching it at some point, but it's not like, oh, I want to go see that in theaters. So that's fine though. Although there were several husbands and probably boyfriends in the theater yesterday with like their wives and girlfriends and stuff like that. Or fathers there with their wife and daughter, depending on stuff. We had been planning to take my nieces to the movie, but they were off on vacation with their mom and dad and their brother this week, so it's just mom and I went, and we took our mom's cousin and then her daughter. So mom's level cousin and then her daughter. We all went to the movie, and we all very much enjoyed it. And then I actually got to talk to my aunt and my cousin on the other side of the family, and they've both seen it and they both very much liked it. And my uncle has actually expressed interest in wanting to go see it. I also have another aunt and another cousin who are very interested in going to go see it at some point in time. And my sister is interested in it. And at some point in time, we'll just have my sister and her kids and some others over and we'll do, stream it once it's on streaming. Now for my review. So straight off the bat, as you could probably guess, I very much liked the movie. I loved how they did it. I love how they had so many different levels and layers of humor within the movie and layers of, emotional what's going on and stuff like that and helping like process that and everything like that. I love how they did that in the movie. I love the design of the movie, the houses that they built. They built like these huge sets inside of the different sound stages and stuff like that for like the Barbie land and the dream houses and everything like that. I never really had the Barbie dream house. I think I had one of the cars at some point in time, but I never had the dream house, mostly just because we didn't have room for one. Also, I didn't really want one. Although I have one Barbie, I do not remember specifically which one it is. But the daycare I went to when I was a kid, one year they bought each of us older girls a Barbie, and mine was a ballet Barbie. So it's probably the one that is, you can't really see it, but I have one over here that is in an Olympic outfit. And I believe that one is the ballet one that probably came with the ballet Barbie dress that I have. And then I had another one that was like, my friend got me one that was like Barbie in a wedding dress. And I very much liked that one too. Again, I'm pretty sure I know which one it was and which dress. Well, I know which dress it was, but I figured I'd put the Barbies all in pink and it would work for the background. I had to dig those out of my closet. Now I got to figure out where I'm going to put them now. But into the movie. I'll gush about other stuff as I go through the movie in and of itself. So I wanted to do a little bit about my history with Barbie at the beginning, but into the movie. Barbie itself, the doll was released in 1959. I believe it is specifically March 9th, 1959, which is also considered to be Barbie's birthday. Um, I have actually watched a couple of things that are like a documentary about Barbie, before I even knew the movie was being made, and I rewatched it before I saw the movie, so I have a bunch of that knowledge in my head, and it talks about like the history of Barbie, and where it started with Mattel and how it's grown so much and everything since then, and all the different controversies that have happened either around Barbie or around the company, and that stuff is touched on in the movie. They didn't necessarily like try to glaze over that, and I like that they did that in the movie, that they didn't like try to pretend that that stuff didn't happen, because it is important to the history of the character and the dolls and everything like that. So the movie itself, I love how they started the movie. I love how they started the movie with basically a parody of 2001: A Space Odyssey, with the giant monolith coming down and like helping primates evolve into like humans and stuff like that. And I love how they parody that. And I love that they have it narrated by Helen Mirren, and how it's not just like she's just there at the beginning and there at the end. She is there the entire way through the movie, and I love it. And she like quips with the characters, and I love that, how they did that. So the way that the movie starts out is the monologue of, the narrator. Since the beginning of time, since the first little girl ever existed, there have been dolls. But the dolls were always and forever baby dolls. Until Barbie came along, and that's where they have the giant Barbie that they have in the posters. That is the Margot Robbie Barbie. I'll get it correct. The Margot Barbie, stereotypical Barbie as she's referred to as later, classic Barbie, in the black and white swimsuit and everything. And I love it. And that is, what that is, based off of and everything, and how it's like this introduction to the character, or introduction to Barbies to the world and everything. And, even Helen Mirren, and, even the narrator is just like, which can be fun for a while anyway. Ask your mother. This is actually a great movie probably to go and see with your mother, although I think two of my great aunts went and saw it and they just did not particularly care for it. But Barbie may have been to a degree before their time, but their daughters, my distant cousins would have played with the Barbies and stuff like that. And there's lots of very good lines in the movie. Barbie is all these women, and all these women are Barbie. And thanks to Barbie, all the problems of feminism have been solved. And I love how they do this big montage at the beginning of it that is showing all of these different, it's clearly supposed to be all these representing of all of these different Barbies and all of these different outfits that are based off of the different outfits that Barbie has been in, and all these different careers that Barbie has had over the course of the last 64 years. And I love how they reference that in there with all these things that Barbie has been able to do and all of that. And that was what Barbie was designed to be, was to show girls that they can be more than just a mother and a wife. They can be so many other things. They can be anything they want to become. And that was what it was meant to be. And that's what Ruth Handler, who is part of the movie, and I'll get to that later, what she wanted them to represent. So we kind of get, all of that going through and, talking about like the narrator explaining a bunch of that and everything, and how it's just like, and at least that's what all the Barbies think in Barbie Land, because then we cut to Barbie Land where we see, Barbie Land looks awesome, by the way. I want to live in Barbie Land. Barbie Land, where they have, it's like the president's a Barbie, and all the Supreme Court are Barbies, and the scientists and journalists and reporters and lawyers and all the different careers are all Barbie. And I love how they're like doing that, and like, you get like, it's played off of like, in the posters that they did for the movie, where they were like, this is Barbie. This is Barbie. She's a lawyer. This is Barbie. She's an author. This is a Barbie. She's the president. And just like going all over the place with all of these different Barbies. And I love it. And like, we're seeing all of them interact with each other and everything like that. Like the reporters are Barbie. The construction site people are Barbie. All the mail people are Barbie. The mail, as in like the mail delivery, the mailmen, they're all male Barbies, which is weird. It's M-A-I-L, not M A-L-E Barbies. You get what I mean? And we see all of them, and like we see Skipper there, that's, you know, Barbie's little sister, and, you know, we get references to some of the other ones. We see her friend Midge, who's like just kind of glossed over very quickly. Glossed over her very, very quickly in the movie, and I love how they did that, and they bring it up again, and they keep glossing over it. And they're doing all of that, and then of course we are introduced to the main Barbie, the one that is the main character of the movie for the most part, and that is the stereotypical Barbie, you know, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed, very classic-looking, kind of classic-looking Hollywood, you know, Barbie, you know, the beauty and everything like that, for the way that it was classically done. Although Barbie originally came out in blonde hair and brunette. Fun fact there, which I think I knew that already. But we see her, you know, her interacting with all of the other Barbies, you know, the hi Barbie, hi Barbie, hi Barbie, and like how it's just like every day is so happy and so wonderful and so fun, and, you know, they, you know, all of the, you know, I love the design of the houses where it's just like the pool is plastic but it looks like water. You can slide down the slide, how the Barbies get places. You can, you know, the clothes just instantly pop onto you, you know, there's the plastic food that the Barbies eat and in the fridge and everything like that, and I love that. And like the cars, and how like the Barbie can drive the car without actually having to like steer it necessarily, and like we see her driving through the city, and like all of these other different Barbies and everything like that, and like how it's jumping back and forth with all of that stuff, and how it's just like everything's great and wonderful and so happy, and it's, you know, the shiny, happy, sparkling people and everything like that, and, you know, and everything just seems great. And, you know, and Barbie gets to the beach, which is where we are introduced to Ken, the beach Ken, that is, you know, this specific Barbie's Ken, and everything like that, and how he just, you know, he adores her, and how he, you know, it's like, you know, Barbie has a great day every day. Ken has a great day whenever Barbie smiles at him. And like we get all of that, like we see all of this type of stuff. This movie has so many layers to it, and I love it. I love all the layers they put in this movie. Thank you. Not that I don't like the animated Barbie movies that they've done for, like, you know, the Barbie of Swan Lake or Rapunzel Barbie, which I have over here. And, you know, a bunch of the other ones, you know, the Mermaid Barbie, Topia, Fairytopia, whatever. But this is much more different, because in those movies, they actually do have different emotions that they show the Barbies have. In this movie, I love how it's like they are the dolls and they are all happy and smiley and everything like that. And, you know, so we see Ken, and then we see all these other Kens. We're getting all the hi Ken, hi Barbie, hi Ken, hi Barbie, hi Ken, hi Alan. There's just one Alan. We get that, and Alan's like, yeah, I don't know why that is. And so it's just like all of these back and forth there. And then of course we have the main Ken, the Ryan Gosling Ken. You know, he tries to impress Barbie, and that doesn't go well, but he's also trying to compete against the other Kens for like Barbie's affection, even though the other Kens all kind of have like their own Barbie that they are kind of with, and stuff like that. And so we get those interactions there. Like we have the Simu Lee Ken, who's there, like he's like the main rival against the main Ken. So we have like them going off, and it's just like, you know, it's like Ken doesn't really have a job. His job is beach, is, you know, because like Beach Ken was like a surfer type guy and everything like that was what he was supposed to represent. And like we see Mermaid Barbies often, you know, off in the water, and you know, it's like we see like as you drive through the Barbie land. I love one of the references that they have in the background, as like on the at like the movie house, there is the Wizard of Oz posters in the background. There are actually a line of Wizard of Oz based Barbies, like with Dorothy and all of the others and everything like that. I would love a Glenda Barbie. I love Glenda's outfit in Wizard of Oz. And like you know, like they have that reference in the background, which this movie, Greta Gerwig, who is the one that, you know, directed it and everything like that. There are so many movie references in this, and it's an homages to these different movies, because there is literally like, you know, the Wizard of Oz references, you know, there's like, yes, there's Wizard of Oz Barbies, but there's also, you know, Barbie goes on this journey from, you know, this place to the real world and back, and, you know, that type of stuff, and like learns about herself in the process. And that's exactly what happens to Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz and everything. And there's references to like other old musicals and other movies. I think there's like homages or references to like 31 different movies in this movie, and I love it. And it's not just a love letter to Barbie. It's also a love letter to like classic Hollywood movies and stuff like that, for things along those lines, or just like movies throughout time. You know, movies since the beginning of movies, and stuff, since like classic Hollywood and onward and stuff. And I love how they do that, because there's like references in the outfits that the characters wear, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna say I love it a lot in this review, because I really, really, really loved how they did that in the movie. And they're going through all of that, and you know, all the different Barbies are talking with each other, and all the Kens and everything. And you know, then of course we cut to, you know, where we kind of watch Barbie and Ken interact a little bit, and yes, she does care about him and all of that. And I love how they have so many of the different vehicles that like pop up, like the Dr. Barbie vehicle shows up because Ken gets hurt because he runs into a plastic wave, because reasons. And you know, and how like all, you know, now they have like a Dr. Barbie come in and like make him feel better. And so it's like, well, you're better, you're all better now. Gee, thanks, type of stuff. So we see those like going back and forth there, and like how they have different, you know, the cars and the, you know, vehicles are based off of like the different Barbie cars and vehicles that they've had, that Mattel has produced over the different, you know, all over the years and everything like that and stuff. And you know, we watch Barbie and Ken like interact and flirt with each other, and like Ken's kind of trying to get Barbie to just like have it be like the two of them so they can just spend time together. But she's like, no, I'm just gonna have a big blowout party with choreographed dances and everything like that with me and all the other Barbies and all the Kens and all of that stuff. And you know, so we cut to, you know, the big party at the house that's, you know, disco party, which is fun. I think they actually made a disco Barbie at some point in time. But like, you know, we get the, yeah, and there's a great soundtracks that go with this movie that go up and down and all over the place in regards to like what they're referencing in the movies and stuff like that. And there's of course Ken's song in the movie that we'll get to. And so it's up and down with all that stuff. You know, they get the big dance sequence and everything. And then of course, you know, we just see like the, you know, Ryan Gosling Ken is just kind of like glaring at like the Simu Lee Ken every time the Simu Lee Ken is like anywhere near Barbie, or anytime too many of the other Kens are near his Barbie. So we have all of that like glaring and rivalry and stuff like that going on. And I love how they did that in the movie. And you know, I'm sorry, I just you can tell I very much like this movie. I very much recommend it, not necessarily for like, I had this, after I had watched the movie yesterday, I went and I got to see like my grandpa and my uncle and my dad, and cousin and aunt that were all there, and we all talked and everything and talked about the Barbie movie because I had said that's where I was. And I'm like, well, I would recommend it for at the very least high school, middle school, not necessarily elementary school students, just because there's so much that's going to go over their heads. But I think Barbie was PG-13. I don't think it was a PG. Or it might have been, I don't remember. So I don't remember what the rating was, but you know, having it be at the very least like a middle school age or older to watch the movie. Not that like a kid couldn't enjoy it for like some of the fun stuff that happens in it, but still, it's a movie that's gonna have a lot of rewatchability, and I like that. And whenever it does come out, I will rewatch it, probably a couple of times. But, you know, so we see all the Barbies and the Kens interacting with each other. And then, of course, we have, you know, the Barbie, the main Barbie, Margot Barbie, just goes like, do you guys ever think about dying? And then just the music screeches to a halt and everything. And everybody's just like, like the whole, like the, oh my God, why did she say that moment? And she's like, dying to dance. And then they go back to dancing, and she's just like really worried about it. And then of course we have her and Ken at the end of it, and that's where we see them, you know, well, you know, can I stay over? And it's like, and do I, well, I don't know, we're boyfriend girlfriend type of thing. And we have that adorable moment, and she's just like, no, it's girls' night, every night is girls' night, you know that, Ken. And then like Ken just kind of goes off, and all the other Kens go off, and all the Barbies, you know, then wake up in their own houses the next morning, and things start going wrong for the Margot Barbie. Her, you know, her water is cold in the shower, her food has expired or is burnt, you know, things like that. They have the moment at the first day where she's lifted off the house and put into her car, because you don't just like walk your Barbie downstairs. You put them in the car and then you just lift them off the house and carry them down, which I love that comment because that is true. And they even reference that. The narrator says that in the movie as they're moving it down, as the Margot Barbie is floating down and everything. And the thing is that the dolls are aware that they are dolls. They are aware that they are that they are dolls that are played with by kids in the real world. They are aware that the real world is a real place. It's not like they're completely like, oh, I've never heard of the real world. What's that? They know this is Barbie land. They're conscious of this. It's not like they're not aware that the outside world exists. They're just in Barbie land, where everything is this way, where it's, girls run the world, basically. Well, that's literally what it is. Girls run the world in Barbie land. And what ends up happening is, she gets to the beach and she steps out of her shoes, and that's when her feet go flat and she falls down. And then we have the moment where she's talking with the other Barbies and she goes like, my feet are on the ground. My heels are on the ground. My feet are flat. And everybody's just like, oh my God. Like they're just freaking out and like, oh my God, your foot is not supposed to be shaped that way. And all of that type of stuff that's going on there. And like, they're just like the Barbies all freaking out and everything like that. And they're like, you're going to have to go see the weird Barbie. And she's like, oh no, I don't want to do that. And like Barbie is just thinking about all these, like, stricken with worries about death and mortality and all of this other stuff. And she goes and she talks to the weird Barbie, who is played by Kate McKinnon, who's this Barbie that is always in the splits, almost, pretty much almost always in the splits. And it's a reference to, and they say it in the movie, the weird Barbies are Barbies that were played with too hard. Like, people, the girls cut their hair badly. They drew on them with markers or crayons. They, made them do splits way too often or whatever, because there wasn't a Barbie that actually did splits. So that's like the slight reference there and like stuff like that. So it's like we get to see that with like the Kate McKinnon Barbie and how she's just been played with too much, played with too rough, but she also just knows so much more. So she's supposed to be kind of like this representation of like a shaman or a wise woman. And like, but they're all just like, well, we just all call her Weird Barbie, both behind her back and to her face type of thing. And so it's like, Barbie, the stereotypical Barbie goes, and she goes to talk to the weird Barbie. And she's, even as she's walking up the steps to get to where get to the weird Barbie is, she's like, if my feet were actually shaped like that, or not shaped like this, I would not wear heels. That's a reference of like just Barbie in heels all the time and everything. I know at one point they did make a Barbie that you could actually like bend its feet and make it go flat. And I think it just kind of freaked people out a little bit too much. I'm like, well, the ballet Barbie, you can do that, but it's also like pointed toes for a ballerina, so there's that. So she goes and talks to the weird Barbie, and the weird Barbie basically, is like explaining about, just like, oh, well, you have worries now, and you've developed cellulite, and she's like, oh my God, what is that? And like, stuff like that. It's just like, the Barbie, the weird Barbie is pointing out what's going on with the stereotypical Barbie. And she's like, I'm just developing all these different feelings and I don't know what's going on. And it's freaking me out. And I'm like, yeah, it would freak me out too if that was happening to me. And so the weird Barbie does the whole, well, you can go to the real world and you can find the child that's been playing with you and connecting with you. And like that, it's like, oh, there's like a rift that's been open. It's not really a rift. I just said it was a rift. It's actually just kind of like this connection between you and the girl and the child that's been playing with you. And, you need to go there and you need to find her and you need to fix this, is what they're going about. And this is where we get, the whole, the Matrix, the Barbie version of the Matrix, where it's literally like you have the pink high heel and you can go back to your regular life, or you can pick the Birkenstock, the sandal, the comfy looking shoe, and go to the real world and find out what's going on. And I love Barbie, the heel. No, we're going to do this again. The heel. No. That was to make you think you had a choice. You're going to the real world, put on the shoes. And like, so Barbie is like, okay, well, I guess I have to go to the real world. And they I love the fact that the Barbies give her like a big send off. So it's not like she's hiding the fact that she's going to the real world. She's doing it because, they're all cheering for her to find out what's wrong and find out what's going on. And they give her this big send off party with a very, very long title on the poster about like going off to fix the problem with the rift in the real world and blah, 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 blah. And I love that. Like she heads off. And we see the Kens just kind of like the Kens are there, and they're all just kind of like slightly arguing with each other, but also like they're like the Kens have their own cliques, where like they have like each Ken has like a second in command Ken, which is just funny. Um, and like those interactions there. And they're like, well, why don't you go with her? And he's just like, no, she asked, and I said no. And from what we see in the trailers, obviously her Ken goes along with her. And, Barbie heads off and she's driving, singing along with the radio and everything and driving toward the real world. And, Ken pops up in the car and it's like, oh my God, you can't come with me. He's like, but I am. And she's like, please tell me you brought your roller skates. And he's like, I literally never go anywhere without them. And it's like, fine. And then they drive off. And then we have this montage sequence that I love. And even the weird Barbie references that, like, the way you're going to get there is you're going to take your car and you're going to drive that way as far as you can. Then you're going to take a boat. Then you're going to take a rocket. Then you're going to take, a camper. And then you're going to take a jet ski. And then you're going to roller skate the rest of the way. And you'll arrive in the state of Malibu in the country of California. It's like, I think how they put it. Malibu, Venice Beach, whatever it was there. And like, so we see that, click by with like the Barbie and Ken and all of the different, on the boat and on the rocket and all this other stuff that was like in the trailers and everything that was just so funny. And like how they get there and like then we see them like roller skating around in Venice Beach in like these very psychedelic looking outfits. And very instantly, Barbie starts feeling very different, and Ken starts feeling very different. And for Barbie, she starts feeling much more uncomfortable, and Ken starts feeling a bit more comfortable in this world. And so it's like they're kind of skating around, and then they end up going over to like a construction site because Barbie's like, well, let's go to the construction site because there'll be a bunch of girls there and they can give us a bit of a lift of what's going on. And like even a bunch of the Barbies back in Barbie Land are like, I bet when you get out to the real world and once you find the girl, she's just going to hug you and they're just going to thank you so much for all the progress that's been made, for everything that was fixed in the real world and everything. And so it's like the Barbies are under that illusion, for lack of a better word. And they go over to the construction site and she gets hit on by the construction workers. And she even, I love the fact that she straight up says, I don't have a vagina. Nope, just blob, just plastic. He doesn't have a penis. And they go off and Ken goes like, I have all the genitalia. And then they go off again. It's like Ken trying to defend himself. And then, of course, as we've seen in the trailers, guy slaps Barbie on the butt. She punches him. Her and Ken get arrested. And it's, the arrested meme of Barbie and Ken and all of that. I love how that started like a draw your own couple meme with this, with like your favorite ships and how it went over. I love that, and how that did kind of like play into the Barbie Oppenheimer thing. I do want to still see Oppenheimer, and my dad wants to see it too, so we may look into seeing that soon. I just wanted to see Barbie first, and with other stuff coming up, it was just easier to see that first, and we'll see Oppenheimer at some point in time. I know they wouldn't have been able to make a reference to Oppenheimer in the movie, but that would have been hilarious if they had been able to find a way to put like an Oppenheimer reference into the movie. I don't think they ever were able to, but that would have been a great way to just do a funny bit for that. But back to the show, and they get arrested, and then it's just like, okay, well, I think we need to get new clothes, and they go into like this beachside place for the beachside store, and they end up getting these cowboy and cowgirl type outfits and everything, and they walk out, and it's based, again, it's like the outfits are partially based on stuff that you can actually buy the Barbies in, outfits that you can actually get for Ken and Barbie. And I know now they're actually releasing a bunch of Barbies and Kens that are dressed in the outfits from the movie that they end up wearing, which again I find to be a great idea. Great, just set up for marketing for that. And but then they end up getting arrested again because they didn't pay for the clothes, yet they get to keep the clothes, I guess, because they don't want them running around naked or whatever. And then Barbie's like, okay, well, I need to find a way to find the girl that's connected to me. So I'm just going to sit here and think and see if I can connect to anything. And Ken's like, thinking is boring. And she's like, well, then go do something else. And he's like, I'm going to go walk that way. She's like, yes, walk that way. It's like a parent to a child. Yes, go ahead, walk that way. Just don't go too far. Ken wanders off and goes too far. We'll get back to him in a minute. Barbie sits down on this bench, and she ends up actually looking over at this, this older woman that's sitting next to her, which is one of the things that they show in the trailer, where she's just like, she compliments the woman. She's like, I think you look beautiful. And the woman goes, I know. And I don't remember off the top of my head if the woman compliments her back, but she just goes back to reading her paper, and then Barbie sits there and she just kind of tries to guess inwardly think about what's going on and try to connect back to the child that was playing with her. And so we see all these different memories of, like a child growing up and, having fun with her mom and having fun with Barbies and all this other stuff. And then eventually, losing interest in Barbies and just, kind of pulling away from her mom and everything like that. And, the kid's a teen, the daughter's a teenager, and, she's just, she's at school and everything. So Barbie's like, okay, I think I figured out where I need to go. But, Barbie is also crying a little bit at this point in time. And she's like, that was weird. She's like trying to wipe away the tears and everything. And while this is going on, Ken is having this moment where he goes and he kind of is looking around at a bunch of stuff and seeing just kind of a little bit more, I think he ends up in Century City or whatever in LA or wherever it is, Malibu, I don't know. LA is, I think, where the movie mostly takes place in the real world, because I believe that's where the headquarters for Mattel is. And so Ken's walking around, he's just seeing all of these guys everywhere and all these different professions that he usually sees Barbie in and everything. And he's just very befuddled by this, but very intrigued by it. And he finds his way back to Barbie, and he's very excited, and she's very excited, and she's like, and he just kind of lets her go, and she's like, we have to go to the high school. So they find their way to Davy Crockett High School, and he's like, oh, a man on a horse, and because Ken likes horses, I guess, and which there's nothing wrong with that. And they get to the school, and Barbie's like, I'm gonna go and see if I can find the girl that I'm trying to find. And Ken's like, well, I'm going to go into the library and see if they have any books about something. I don't remember exactly what it is, but he goes in the library, and Ken ends up finding all these books about the history of man and the rise of man and horses and stuff like that, and the patriarchy and all this other stuff. And he starts reading through those, and he's just he gets befuddled when a woman asks him for the time, but he's like, oh, you respect me. And she's like, we're going to go this way, honey, away from the strange man. And, and Barbie ends up finding her way to the cafeteria, where she ends up finding the girl she's looking for. And I love this. And she ends up going up to the girl, and this is one of the bits that we see in the trailer, where she's like, hey, girls. And she's, the pink, the Barbie in real life type of a thing, and just hi to the teens. And, she finds out the name of the girl she's looking for is Sasha. And she's like, Sasha, it's me, I'm Barbie, how we used to play together. And it's and all the girls are like, we haven't played with Barbie since we were 5. And Sasha is supposed to be the very cool girl at school, and all of her little clique and everything. So a Mean Girls reference there, although they don't wear pink on Wednesdays, or maybe they do and they weren't there on a Wednesday. But so we get a bunch of that, and Sasha actually tears into Barbie. And it is the takeoff of the fact that, just you with, Barbie doll is this perfect figure, and that, made women feel bad, and, all this other stuff. And, yeah, you guys were able to do all this stuff so easily, and how, just so much against Barbie, and just riddling off all the different bad things about Barbie and everything like that. Which, again, the movie is not denying that those things happened. The movie is not trying to say that, oh no, that never happened. They're embracing it. That is part of what the movie does. For all the people who didn't actually watch the frickin' movie and then criticized it. And they go through all of that. And Barbie feels very bad, and she kind of goes off, and she ends up sitting and crying, and she's just I don't, and she gets called a fascist and all this other stuff by the girl, and she's just I just don't know. And she's just breaking down about what's going on, and Ken's off learning about horses and stuff, and Sylvester Stallone and boxing and manly macho stuff and all this other stuff. And this is where we have the plot in the movie, or part where it's where we have from the trailer, where he goes into a building and into a hospital and trying to talk to a female doctor. It's just I'd like to talk to a real doctor, and just going back and forth with that and everything. And it's like him trying to get a job out of place, but it's just like, it's not enough to be a man. No, you need to have an MBA and this other stuff. And he's just like, not being a man is being a man isn't enough. And they're like, no, not anymore. And like, they kind of go back and forth with that type of stuff. And, Barbie, at this point in time, we cut away to Mattel headquarters where we have a call come in from the FBI to random intern number 73. I don't remember what his name was. But he somehow gets like stuck along on the rest of this adventure. He gets a call and it's just like 2 of your dolls got out, a Barbie and a Ken, and they're running around in Malibu. What? Yeah, this happened before. Skipper, about 10 years ago. She got out. She went to a family's house in Florida, babysat the kids, tried to take the baby surfing. We got her back to Barbie Land. It was okay. And they're like, oh my God. So they have to go. So the intern has to go up to all the Mattel executives. And that's where we have Will Ferrell's character, who's the CEO of Mattel. And then it's the room full of men. That parody there. And I had initially thought maybe they'd have like one single woman there just to be like a setup for something, but like they didn't. It's just all men. There's a joke on that later, so I will get to that. Admittedly, in real life, the Mattel board is actually like 7 men and 5 women currently for like the head of Mattel at the moment. So it's not exactly even, but it's better than what's portrayed in the movie. But that's kind of like one of the jokes of the movie. And like we see, Will Ferrell's character is like going back and forth, and like he really does like developing and having fun with the Barbies and stuff like that. And he really much cares for the line, for the product and all of that stuff. And we have this funny moment where the intern comes in and he's like, I have something very urgent to tell you. And they're just like, well, can you whisper it? And so he whispers it to like the table is a heart shape with like Will Ferrell up here and then like the intern down here at the bottom, and he whispers, and then like the whisper, it's like a weird game of telephone, and they whisper it all the way around, all the way to Will Ferrell's character, where he's just like, oh my God, a Barbie got out. What about Ken? Nobody cares about Ken. Again, reference there. And I knew I was going to do this. I skipped over America Ferrera's character for a moment. She plays like the CEO's secretary, so Will Ferrell's secretary assistant. And we see her drawing all these different, drawings of Barbie with like cellulite and like, thinking dark thoughts and stuff like that in like the different outfits we've seen Barbie in. So we're supposed to start making that connection. And, she ends up listening in at the door and finding out Barbie's in the real world. And they're like, we have to send out send out the guys, and we need to get the box ready so we can send her back to Barbie Land and everything like that, because they know Barbie Land exists. And they're like, and the intern's like, wait, Barbie Land is real? And they're like, yeah, just like picture it off as like a village somewhere off in Sweden or whatever. And so then like the suits, the men in black, have to go out and get Barbie, and they find her after she's been crying again. And they get her into, this is like her getting into the black van and everything like that from the trailer, and they drive her back to Mattel because, she's like, oh, well, if anyone can help me figure this out, it's Mattel, so that's great, so we'll go there. And they get to Mattel, and they take her all the way up to the office and up to the boardroom where, all the CEO and all the different board members are and everything, and she's like, so where's the boss? Shouldn't it be a woman type of a thing? And Will Ferrell, as a reference to what actually has happened in Mattel, he's just like, well, we've had two female CEOs, one in the 90s and one more recently. So we've had them. So we get that reference there, which is true. They had a female CEO in Mattel, in the 90s, and then they had another one in like 2000 or early 2020s, but they left after like a year. She left after a year. And then of course there's Ruth Handler, who is of course one of the co-founders of Mattel, along with her husband and a few others. And she was very much in charge of a bunch of stuff for a long time with that. So there's, that kind of history there. And they're like, well, we can get you back to Barbie Land. We're just going to put you inside of this box, and then we'll be able to take you back to Barbie Land. And of course, it's based off of, like, the box that, like, you get the Barbie in and everything like that, with, like, the twist ties on their arms and everything like that to hold them in place. And they try to, like, twist tie her arms in, and she's just like, can I go down the hall and go to the bathroom and just make sure my hair looks perfect before you put me in the box? Oh, yeah, not a problem. And this is where we see her running off, and she's running around the building, and they're trying to chase her. And this is her running through the cubicles and everything that we've seen in the trailers. They're chasing after her. And, you know, they're all just like... I know there's a theory out there that all of the CEO and all the different executives are actually like Kens that escaped, and that's why they're so obsessed with Barbie. I know that there's like a theory about that, and I can kind of agree with that. So we just see them running around the building, and you know, Barbie ends up into this just random room that happens to look like some old lady's like kitchen and everything, and she finds this older woman in there, and she's like sitting and talking to the woman. And the woman knows instantly that she's Barbie. She just knows instantly that this is a Barbie. And she's talking to the woman, and the woman just goes, well, I think you look perfect. And she's like, you must think I'm weird, because like Barbie can't figure out how to like lift the cup the right way to get liquid, you know, to actually drink the tea and stuff like that. Because she's not used to her cups and everything actually having liquid in them. We did a joke about that earlier. And so we get a bunch of that, and she, you know, talks to the older woman a little bit, and then she's like, well, they're going to get in here pretty quickly, so I need to get out of here. So it's like, take those stairs, take that way out the door, down the stairs to the lobby, and you can get out. And she gets out. And at that point in time is where we have cut away at some point in that time, and like Ken is trying to make his way back to Barbie Land. That's what he's doing. He has to do everything in reverse. So skate, trailer, or RV, rocket ship, bike, boat, back to Barbie Land. You know, so he's doing that. And then we cut to America Ferrera's character, Gloria, and her daughter, who is Sasha, the one that, you know, Barbie thinks she has the connection with. And, you know, Sasha's like telling her mom about like, here's this woman that came in dressed like Barbie, looked like a real life Barbie, was trying to tell me she was my Barbie, all this other stuff. And America Ferrera and Gloria is just like, okay. And like they drive back to Mattel, and they happen to show up at Mattel at the time when Barbie gets out of the building. And I love they have this joke where like she just like, I think she just jumps the turnstiles, and then all of the executives, like they get stuck at the turnstiles because it's just like, oh no, where are our key cards? Get past the turnstiles, which is funny. They eventually get past them, but like Barbie gets out of the building and she jumps into Gloria's car, and they drive off. So then we have like a car chase, and the daughter is just like, why do you have a real life Barbie in our car? What is going on? What is happening here? And they're like, she's the real Barbie. She's real Barbie. And they're like, so going through all of that stuff. And like they're driving around on the with like the Mattel guys chasing after them in like two black vans and everything. So we're getting like this car chase, but it's like a mom, a suburban mom and her daughter and a Barbie in the back seat as part of the car chase. And they're like outwitting all of these guys, which is really funny. All the CEO guys, all the executive guys. So that's just funny there. And they kind of manage to escape a little bit. And this is where we have the moment where Gloria explains to Sasha that I may have pulled out those Barbies you used to play with, and maybe we used to play with together, and may have been playing with them. And that's where it should feel that Barbie does not have the connection with Sasha. The memories that she was having are actually the connection to Gloria, of watching Sasha grow up and having the two of them having played with Barbies together as Sasha grew up, and how Sasha then like pulled away from her mom and pulled away from Barbie and all of that stuff, and becoming very critical of it and everything like that, as happens. And as happens a lot of times when it comes to stuff you like as a kid, that when you get older, you sometimes get very critical of it, and you're like, why did I like this when I was a kid? It's stupid. Or, you know, that is what they're representing there with Sasha. And, you know, Gloria's like, yeah, I guess those feelings of death and mortality and cellulite and not knowing what you're supposed to be doing with your life, it kind of affected you. I'm sorry. So we have that moment. And we end up, you know, they're like, well, we need to, you know, I need to figure out what to, you know, Barbie's trying to figure out what she needs to do. And they basically come to the decision that like, how about Sasha and Gloria come to Barbie Land so they can see what Barbie Land is like? And they're like, okay. Sasha's not entirely up for it, but they like head off to Barbie Land. We see them, skateboard, skating, rollerblading, and then going through all of these different, setups to get back to Barbie Land. And they're just like, how did we get in these clothes? I love these boots. I had these on a Barbie. I lost them. And like just like, oh my god, like just like all this stuff going back to Barbie Land, and that was just funny in and of itself with like that interaction there. And they get back to Barbie Land, and they get back to, like, they drive by the beach, and things are looking very different because we see like the Kens like playing volleyball and doing other stuff, and like the Barbies cheerleading them on, and like the President Barbie is like handing out beers to the Kens, and all the Barbies are like cheering on and serving the Kens. And we see like the Mermaid Barbie give like a beer to like John Cena Mermaid Ken, which is just funny. Which is funny. And so it's like we're seeing all of that, and it's just like, what is going on? And then like they get back to where Barbie's dream house is, and it's been taken over by Ken, and he explains that, oh, I've turned this into my, Mojo Dojo Casa House type thing. And it's like there's like 7 televisions, and they all have like horses running on them, which I'm like, okay, the horses aren't bad. And like there's mini fridges everywhere with like beer and like golf stuff everywhere, and like all this other stuff, and like a bunch of the other Kens are there as well, and like a bunch of the other Barbies are there like in maids outfits, various types of maids outfits, like serving them and stuff like that. And the Barbies are like, oh no, I was never a scientist. No, that's not true. Like that type of stuff. Like it's just like everything's been not 100% flipped, but very flipped than what it was. And Ken is, he like kind of delved into this patriarchy wormhole that he found with all the books and everything like that, and horses. I can't blame him for the horses. Horses are awesome. I should have pulled out my plastic horse. Oh well. That is not a sentence I get to say that often. Darn, I should have pulled out my plastic horse and put it next to one of the Kens. Screw it. There, I pulled out the plastic horse that I have and put it next to one of the Kens. And so Ken is just like, well, the real world is much more like run by men, so why can't Barbie Land be the same thing? Or Kendom Land, whatever it's going to be called at that point in time. And Barbie just has this meltdown, which is fair. When all of this happens, she just has this meltdown, and we just kind of see her, like, Ken kind of throws her out of the house and like throws a bunch of her, I love this moment where they have like all these like references to like all these different classic Barbie outfits that like he throws out of the house, and she's just like, oh, my clothes. And then she goes off and has her meltdown, which is where we have the moment where it's just like her sitting on the ground and then falling over, because it's what would happen with Barbies if you set them down and they weren't balanced enough, and they would just fall over. And she's just like having a mental breakdown, depression moment, and they have this joke where they go to this ad for like anxiety-ridden depression Barbie, with like a kid playing with the girl playing with the Barbie and all that type of stuff, showing that with like Barbie with like makeup smudged all over the place and like sad and all of that, like going through there for that ad. And we cut back to the real world where we have the Mattel guy, the CEO, talking with like their new shipping houses, shipping out a bunch of these new Mojo Dojo Casa houses for Ken, and they're like, they're flying off the shelves and all of that stuff. And it's like, oh my god, we have to get to Barbie Land. And like, so there's like, we get the joke of like all the Mattel guys going through to Barbie Land. Like them everybody find rollerblades and start rollerblading. And they like go through, and then we see them all on this like very long tandem bike, and like the intern associate guy is like there too, like at the end, and they're just going through, which is just funny, so funny. And we cut to back to Barbie, and like she's having her breakdown on the ground, and it's either this or slightly later is where we get the moment where she's like, that I'm not good enough anymore, that I don't feel pretty anymore. And the narrator literally comes on and says, The filmmaker should have hired someone other than Margot Robbie to say this line. Note to the filmmakers. This is not a line that needs to be said by Margot Robbie, or however it was phrased. And Gloria and Sasha are like, this is ridiculous. We have to go home. So they're just like, they start driving their way out of Barbie Land, soon being renamed the Kendom. And it's actually, the Kens are going to hold a vote in like 48 hours to like permanently change the constitution of Barbie Land, which would be bad in this case. And so Sasha and Gloria are driving away, and Alan actually ends up hiding in their car, which is funny. And Alan's like, I'm never gonna get out of here. She's like, please get me out of here. And so like Alan's just like there kind of, and then we see all these construction Kens that are trying to build a wall, but they just keep stacking the bricks on top of each other instead of actually going across. And then they're like, okay, well, we need to figure out what we're going to do. And Alan actually ends up beating up the Kens, which is kind of just funny to watch. It's just really funny to watch that. And Gloria decides, we have to go back. We have to fix this. We have to try to fix what's wrong here. And you know, someone had just come along and like picked up Barbie and like taken her to somewhere else, or they went back and picked up Barbie and they take her to like where the weird Barbie is, where we have the weird Barbie, Alan, some of the other side characters, and a couple of the other discontinued Barbies are there. And they're trying to convince this other Barbie that was like a Nobel Prize winning physicist that this was yours, you won this type of a thing. And they're trying to like fix her. And all of them get, you know, Alan and Sasha and Gloria, and then stereotypical Barbie, I think, was already brought there at some point in time by one of the other sets up of the Barbies. I think the weird Barbie got her. And they're like, oh, we need to figure out what we can do to fix this. And this is where we get, they kind of do this comparison to like, there's like an infection in Barbie Land, and that's like this patriarchy system where it's just everything's flipped, and just instead of being like, you know, where the men are much lower ranked than all the Barbies, where all the Kens are lower ranked than all the Barbies. Now it's like all the Kens are the ones on top, and the Barbies are like the much more subservient ones. Which, you know, again, you know, by the end of the movie, it's like neither one of those systems are entirely perfect, because it's still, one group is still being marginalized, and that is what the movie is trying to point out. And we have this moment where like we see all these other different characters, all these other discontinued Barbies. There's like a sugar daddy Ken, which is just like, oh God. And it's like, okay then. And there's like a Ken with an earring one. And then there's, oh God. And then there's the growing up Skipper, which was an actual doll that they made. Good concept, bad execution, where it's you turn her arm a certain way and it like makes her grow up. And like they actually do that in the movie, where they have like Gloria like twist the, you know, the growing up Skipper's arm and like grows. And they're like, oh my God, why did they make that? And it's like, yeah, that's why it got discontinued. And then we cut over to like this other Barbie that has like, again, these are all real Barbies. Pretty much every single one of these different Barbies that they've shown in the movie, or all these different Kens that they've shown in the movie, are based off of actual Barbie dolls that they made and either discontinued, or they were very, very successful in certain cases, and they just were released for a certain amount of time. It's not like they just completely stopped making them because they were a bad idea. And some of them are just like, okay, no, that was not a good idea for a Barbie. And like one of them has like a camera in her, so it's like she has a camera inside of her, so she has like a video screen on her back and a camera in her chest, and that way it's just like, oh, you can like record stuff this way. And then like, you know, there's like the talking Barbie that I don't remember if they actually referenced or not, specifically, or if they did, I missed it. But like, you know, so it's just like we have to get all of these Barbies to work together, and we have to figure out what's going on here. And they're like, well, why wasn't she affected? Like, why wasn't the stereotypical Barbie affected by like this new patriarchy thing? And they're like, well, maybe it was like because she was already immune to it, because she'd been to the real world and been back. It's like, you know, she has like, she's built up like a defense against it. Like your immune system builds up defenses against diseases and stuff like that. So they're like, well, maybe that's what happened. And then we have where I'm gonna love this speech whenever I'm able to actually watch it again. And it's America Ferrera as Gloria gives this great speech to not just the stereotypical Barbie to try to snap her out of this, but also it is a speech about, to her own daughter, to the other Barbies that are there, to the other Kens and the other discontinued Barbies that are there, and Alan. Although they keep cutting back to and Alan, the running gag in the movie, that was funny. And and just like it's also this message to the audience about like just how hard it is to be a woman. And as amazing as the speech is, I cannot do it justice. But I love it. It's like I will attempt to read it and we will see how well this goes. Again, I am not America Ferrera in this role. I cannot do it justice. It's like it's literally impossible to be a woman. You are so beautiful and so smart, and it kills me that you don't think you're good enough. Like we have to always be exceptionary, but somehow we're always doing it wrong. You have to be thin, but not too thin. And you can never say you want to be thin. You have to say you want to be healthy, but also you have to be thin. And you have to have money, but you can't ask for money because that's crass. And you have to be a boss, but you can't be mean. You have to lead, but you can't squash other people's ideas. You're supposed to love being a mother, but you don't talk about your kids all the damn time. You have to be a career woman, but also always be looking out for other people. You have to answer for men's bad behavior, which is insane. And if you point that out, you're accused of complaining. You're supposed to be pretty for men, but not so pretty that you tempt them too much or that you threaten other women, because you're supposed to be part of a sisterhood, but always stand out and always be grateful. But never forget that the system is rigged. So find a way to acknowledge that, but also always be grateful. You have to never get old, never be rude, never show off, never be selfish, never fall down, never fail, never show fear, never get out of line. It's too hard. It's too contradictory, and nobody gives you a medal or says thank you. And it turns out, in fact, that not only are you doing everything wrong, also everything is your fault. I'm just so tired of watching myself and every single other woman tie herself into knots so that people will like us. And if all of that is also true for a doll just representing women, then I don't even know. And I loved that moment in the movie. I think I had heard something about her, or I'd seen something where it's like she gives this great speech, and how that is like that speech is kind of like the heart of what the movie is supposed to be representing. That like this doll, even for being around for 60 some years, is still going through this whole process of like it can try to represent what a woman is supposed to be. And then even once Barbie gets to the point where like there's so many different other versions of Barbie with all these different careers and all of these other things and all of these different outfits and all of these different tones and body shapes and representing diversity in so many different ways and all of that stuff, and like having famous people represented as Barbies and stuff like that. And all of that stuff, that is literally what that entire speech is representing. It's also about being a woman in today's society, where it's just like, you can't do this, but you have to do this, but you can't do that, and you have to be this, and you can't do this, and it's like, and it is kind of this explanation of like, even we don't know where we're going at this point in time. Any person at any point in their life may have a goal for what they want, but that doesn't mean that they know exactly how to get to that goal. Like, I want the YouTube thing to work out. And as much as I would like you guys to, yes, like and subscribe, I just don't want to say that in every single video. And, other YouTubers do it, and that's fine. If you want to, that's fine. But that's not what I'm not going to ask that of people. But it's also like, that is what I need to have happen. But, and, it's like, I have all these different things, but it's, the same thing happens. And it's the same thing happens when I look at like my nieces and even my nephew, where it's just like, well, I don't know what they want to be. And sometimes they do, and then they change it. And like, when I was a kid, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to be. you know, but then sometimes I did, and then sometimes I didn't, and then it shifts. And that's the same thing that they're showing here for that, for what a doll has to go through that just represents women. And like her, you know, Gloria giving that speech, and like her daughter is off to the side and watching it, and like she's absorbing it as well. And all the other ones that are in the weird Barbie house are listening to and absorbing it. And it snaps the Margot Robbie Barbie out of her bit of depression. And then it also snaps the physicist Barbie, the Nobel Prize winning physicist Barbie, out of her, you know, out of the glaze of the patriarchy setup. And she's like, what am I wearing? Where's my Nobel Prize? What is going on? And then they all develop this plan of like, okay, we have to get all the Barbies back, and then we have to fix that vote, and then we have to distract all the Kens. So they start developing this plan where they send out one of the Barbies that was brainwashed, that was one of the brainwashed Barbies that has been fixed. And they send her out to act as like a decoy Barbie to like lure the Kens away. And then they keep grabbing all of the different other Barbies, and like they bring them into where Gloria is, and Gloria gives them like a portion of like the speech, or like another bit of the speech. And that like just like zings them back into reality. And like they get the president Barbie, and they get the lawyer Barbie, and they get like the doctor Barbie, and this other one, and this other one, and this author, and like all this, you know, and they get all of them. And like they each subsequently then have the next Barbie play like the next damsel in distress moment of like, Photoshop is so hard, I don't know how to make it work. And you know, oh, what's this movie? It's The Godfather. Can you explain it to me? And then start it from the beginning, and then go through the entire movie talking the entire time to explain it to me. And like that joke there. And like, you know, oh, you know, lure them away with, you know, this and that, and like all this other stuff where they like trick the Kens. And they're like, okay. And then they get all the Barbies back to where they're supposed to be, back to their correct, you know, setup. And they're like, okay, well, now we have to pit the Kens against each other. And they're like, okay, here's what we're going to do. And all the Barbies go to each of their Kens, and they're like, I would, you know, just like to spend time with you, you know, be your low commitment, distant girlfriend thing, or whatever it was that they were trying to say before. And they're like, okay, so, you know, stereotypical Barbie goes to, you know, where, you know, Ryan Gosling Ken is, and like they sit, and they, you know, she goes in and they go on the date, and he like, you know, plays the guitar, and he's like, let me play the guitar at you. And he sings, I think it's Push by, or it's like Push You Around, or whatever it is, by, I want to say Nickelback, but do not quote me on that because I do not remember. But like he sings that to her, and then somehow they're on the beach, and then all the other Kens are there with their Barbies on the beach, and then the Barbies end up then pulling the whole, now you act like you're not that into them, and you're going to go and sit by one of the other Kens, and like Solo is like moving all over the place to the other Kens because to make their Ken jealous. And then that results in all the different Kens are like, okay, we're going to have a battle on the beach. We're going to have a beach off. And so that's what the Kens are going to do the next day. And that's the day of like the election, or the special vote, the referendum. So they all go, and then we have this moment where this is where we go into the Ken song, the I'm Just Ken song, where we start off where it starts off as the Ryan Gosling Ken just singing on his own, and then it shifts into all of them being ready to go out of this, you know, battle on the beach. And I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be a bit of a double reference to like, I don't know, whatever it is, like the Omaha Beach scene in like Saving Private Ryan, where it's just like, you know, these Kens are coming from this one, the ocean led by the right, Ryan Gosling Ken. The ones on the beach are being led by Simu Lee, and they all have like a horse of some kind that's like horse-sized, you know, horse boats, or like, you know, like the horses that are like the horse head on a stick that you can pretend to ride around on. And like all the Kens are setting up that way because now all the Kens really like horses. And like I love the coat that Ryan Gosling's Ken wears during this, because it's this fur-lined coat, but then on the inside the lining is all of these horse detailed like drawings that looks really good. And I actually like the coat. I'm like, the coat actually looks pretty good. I was like, I wouldn't mind that coat. And it's like, and this, it's the I'm Just Ken song going, and it's just like, oh, the tough side of like being the Ken and being whatever Barbie needs him to be at that moment and everything, but also just being a friend and not being what they want to be and not knowing what they are like. And then they have the moment where all of the Kens are fighting on the beach and stuff with like, fake weapons, fake bows and arrows and dart guns and, frisbees and stuff like that. They're all fighting against each other, and there are sparkles in different places for whatever reason. And the Mattel guys have shown up at this point in time, and they're walking through the beach like, what the heck is going on? And and like, so the Kens are just arguing and fighting with each other while the Barbies are over doing the vote over at like the courthouse, at the White House, the Pink House, doing the vote. And we cut to where, like, as the Ken song is going on, it shifts into this like dream sequence setup that is like, I know that it's a reference to Singing in the Rain. There's kind of a dream-ish type sequence in Singing in the Rain that's oh god, I know the names. Come on, brain. It's Debbie Reynolds and Kelly. Oh, come on. Singing in the Rain. I know this. I'm annoyed. I had to look it up. Gene Kelly. I was right on the Kelly part. Gene Kelly and Debbie Reynolds and everything, they're singing at that point in time, and like this dream sequence stage setup, and like all the Kens are there, and they're all in the black outfits and the coat and everything, and by the end of it, they're all like standing as one, of like supporting each other as Kens, and I love that. And they go through that, and then it's just like all the Kens head off because like the vote happened, so the Barbies voted not to change the Constitution. The Barbies and Alan and whoever else voted not to change the Constitution. And they're all in like pink outfits, and then all the Kens get their way back to like where the Mojo Dojo Casa houses are that have been changed back into what they're supposed to be for the most part. And all the Barbies are there in like, their pink and nice outfits and everything like that, ready to, confront the Kens. And, we have those moments, and like some of the Kens are much more easily, shifted back to their Barbies a little bit more. And we have this moment where, the Barbies apologize to the Kens for how they treated them, for the fact that they kind of made them like, the minority and second-class citizens to a degree, and they're apologizing to them for that. And they're like, well, then can we have a judge on the Supreme Court? No, but on a lower court, sure. And they're like, okay. And it's just like, maybe eventually the Kens will get to where the women are in the real world. And like that type of thing. So it's just like, so the Kens can start doing stuff more that they want to do. And I like that they do that. And then they have the moment where it's like most of the other Kens are fine with this, but the main Ken, Ryan Gosling Ken and Barbie, end up having this moment where they finally acknowledge like their failings to each other, but also the fact that like it's not just Ken. He's not and Ken. He can be his own self. And he's like, I just don't know who I am without you. And there is this very good representation there of like, codependent relationships. And that is kind of what that is showing, where sometimes it's, your worth is not with the person you are dating. Your worth is yourself. Yes, you can have a definition of, the person you are dating can be very important to you, but that does not always define who you are as a person. And that's what that is supposed to be representing with that relationship with Ken and Barbie. And it's kind of like Ken and Barbie just kind of break up and like, well, this is going on. Ken keeps trying to kiss her, and she's like, no. And he's like, okay, sorry. And he like backs off all the different times. And like, she's like, you can be Ken. And, it's like, I am Ken and Ken is me type of a thing. And like the Kens kind of do that back and forth. And it's just like, you can be Ken and Ken is enough. And for the I am Ken enough shirts that have been coming out and everything. That is what that is showing, and that you can not be in a relationship and still be what you want to be. So like stereotypical Barbie and Beach Ken are breaking up with each other is what they're showing there, but like in a mature fashion of it. And like, so that's happening. And then we cut to like the Mattel guys show up out of like Skipper's treehouse for whatever reason. They show up out of that with like, I don't know, TARDIS powers of like bigger on the inside thing. And like there's a Midge joke in there as well, and an Alan joke in this somewhere. And like the president Barbie's actually gone over the weird Barbie and apologized for, you know, sorry we were calling you weird, both behind your back and to your face. Would you like a job in my administration? So it's just like, yes, can I please have sanitation? Sure. So it's just like, that's all better. So they're trying to get better for how they treat like the discount or the discontinued Barbies and the more outcast ones that Barbie has had over the years. So they're trying to do better with how they, you know, take care of them and everything, for how they incorporate them in and accept them in. So we have all of that. And we cut to, yeah, the Mattel guys show up and they're just like, well, they're like doing some form of a stupid thing, but also it's just like, you know, sometimes it's just nice to say what you want to say. And then for some reason they get into a tickle fight, which I cannot remember why, and I kind of don't care. And then we have it that the woman shows up that was the one that Barbie talked to in the Mattel building, that was like the one in like the little house setup. And she shows up and there was like, oh my God, it's the ghost of Ruth Handler. And she, you know, the co-founder of Mattel, and like Will Ferrell's just like, yeah, the ghost of her still has an office on the 17th floor. And it's like, she walks over and she's like talking to Barbie in front of the other Barbies, because Barbie's like, well, I don't know what to do now. And, you know, she's like, I'm unsure of what my purpose and my identity is at this point in time. And, you know, that's where, you know, the Ruth Handler comes in and she's like, you know, I named you after my own daughter, Barbara. And she has these great lines where it's just like, humans only have one ending. Ideas live forever. Which Barbie is an example of this idea that has lived forever. And then she's also like, we mothers, I do not need to cry. We mothers stand still so that our daughters can look back and see how far they have come. Which is very true. That is something that has always happened throughout history. It's like, you know, my mom's come so far in her lifetime. My grandma saw so much. Both my grandmas saw so much progress in the world in their own lifetimes. Not, you know, my grandpa on my dad's side has as well, but, you know, it's like they saw so much progress in the world, and my mom has seen more. And, you know, by the time I'm, you know, old, possibly a mom, possibly just like a really great aunt, depending on how that goes, you know, again, it's like how far the world will come at that point in time. How far will the world have come in different ways? Will it have been an apocalyptic zombie world at that point in time? I don't know. We'll find out. I hope not. I really hope not. I really hope not. I don't want that. I won't survive. So we have all of that. And we also have it that, like, you know, Gloria talked to like the Mattel guys, and she's like, why don't you come up with a Barbie that's just like, is not like this over extraordinary Barbie, that's just like an average person, an average woman Barbie. And they're like, oh, that might sell. And so I was like, so that's going on there. And like Gloria and Sasha have like made up and, you know, fixed their relationship there much better than it was even before Barbie showed up. And, you know, so we see, Ruth kind of takes Barbie off, and they go into like this white, pinkish, Technicolor-ish void. And they're talking, and she's like, you know, like Barbie said goodbye to the other Barbies and all of that stuff. And she's like, well, Ruth's like, well, kind of the next step is for you to become human and return to the real world and stay there and live there. Whether or not, I mean, like, she would still know how to get back to Barbie Land, so it's not like she still couldn't go and visit Barbie Land. But, like, you know, she, you know, we have this great moment where it's just the two of them. The woman representing the creator of Barbie, and the woman who is supposed to representing this embodiment of like what most people picture when they picture Barbie. And it's the creator, the hand of Adam to God and everything. It's that creator is giving this idea that they had permission to go and do what they want, giving them fully the amount of free will and letting Barbie come to life. And, so we cut to sometime later in the real world where we have Gloria and Gloria and Sasha, along with Gloria's husband, dropping Barbie off at somewhere. We don't know quite where yet, but dropping her off and like giving her encouragement. And Barbie goes in and they're like, name? And she goes, Handler, Barbara. And then it's like, and how are we helping you today? And she goes, I'm here to see my gynecologist. So again, it's, a thing that should not be a shame to most women to go to a gynecologist, but it's like something that you don't talk about in polite society, and it's just like right there on the big screen in that regard, and I love that. And it's just like, it's not her going to get this huge job. It's not like she got this job at Mattel to do stuff. It's just like she's going to do something that's for her own health, and that's what she's doing, and that's how the movie ends. And then I love how the credits, before I get into the cast, the credits are so funny because it's like they go through all of these different Barbies that were like all these different discontinued Barbies for different reasons. Like the pregnant Midge and the growing up Skipper and like all these other different Barbies that they're showing there, and it's so funny. So into the cast, we of course have Margot Robbie as Barbie, that is the stereotypical Barbie. We have then all the other different Barbies. There's, Kate McKinnon as Weird Barbie, Issa Rae as President Barbie, Alexandra Shipp as Writer Barbie, Emma Mackey as Physicist Barbie, Hari Neff as Dr. Barbie, Sharon Roney as Lawyer Barbie, Anna Cruz Kane, whatever, as Judge Barbie, Rita Aria as Journalist Barbie, Dua Lipa as Mermaid Barbie, who also has a song on it in the movie, Nicola Coughlan as Diplomat Barbie. And I apologize for butchering any of these names. I very much apologize. We have Meti Narrative as Barbie Video Girl, Marissa Abella as Teen Talk Barbie, Lucy Bynart as Proust Barbie, which I did not understand that reference in the movie. And then, of course, for the Kens, we have Ryan Gosling as Ken, or Beach Ken. And then we have Simu Lee as Tourist Ken, and who I loved in Shang-Chi. And then we have Kingsley Ben-Adir, as Basketball Ken, who did an amazing job as the main villain in Secret Invasion for Marvel on Disney Plus, and I loved Scott Evans as stereotypical Ken, who is actually Chris Evans' younger brother there, for a Marvel connection there. And then Shruti Gatwa as Artist Ken, who is Doctor Who now, when we get to that, whenever that comes back. That we have John Cena as Ken Maid, or as Merman Ken, Rob Brydon as Sugar Daddy Ken, Tom Stroughton as Earring Magic Ken, which was, again, a real Ken they made with an earring, America Ferrera as Gloria, Ariana Greenblatt as Sasha, Michael Cera as Alan, Rhea Perlman as Ruth Handler. Rhea Perlman, a lot of people recognize her, of course, as like the mom in Matilda, from the original Matilda. I believe she is also Danny DeVito's actual wife, if I remember correctly. I think so. She was also on Cheers for a long time. She's just a very great, amazing comedian. We have Helen Mirren as the narrator. We have Will Ferrell as the CEO of Mattel. And like, I love how they did all that with all of these different characters and stitching them all together and making them all work in this world. And of course, there's so many other just additional characters in the movie that were just great. The music was great. As I said, the costumes were great. The design of the movie was great for like the sets and everything. And they caused like a shortage in Hollywood of pink because of all the pink they needed for the paints and everything. And that was just funny. And it's the point of the movie, for people who are kind of missing it, or at the very least the point I took from the movie, is that everything being woman is not good and everything being a man is not good. It's, you need to have the right balance there in the world, and having the right people in the right positions as like the person that is most qualified for the job, regardless of what their gender is, but also understanding that you need to have diversity and representation and all of that. And you also want to make sure that stuff's not, people aren't exploited. Again, look back to the giant speech where it's just like there's contradictory stuff all over the place, for how you can try to make things better and stuff. And I love how they did that in the movie. Okay. Ended up being longer than I wanted it to be. Sorry. There was a lot of stuff I wanted to talk about. So yes, that's what I have. I thank you very much for watching this. Whenever you end up watching this, I have no idea. If it's several years after the movie's come out and you found the channel, I hope you enjoyed this after you watch the movie again, or whatever. So, I thank you for watching this. I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave your comments for what you thought of the Barbie movie, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye.